What's up everybody, Dan from Playtest VR here, and the PlayStation VR 2 is out this week, and I, amongst a lot of people out there, are beyond hyped. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of steal an idea from Gamertag VR. He created a video maybe 3 weeks ago ranking the launch window PlayStation VR 2 titles, and I'm going to go through all the launch day ones, so that comes out on February 22nd. So I'm going to show you exactly what I mean. So I've made this tier maker list. So I've got must buy, tier 1, curious, wait for sale, and pass. Okay, and I've put down all 35 of the launch titles. I believe there might be 36 or 37. I always see on Twitter randomly it pops up as, you know, there's an indie title that's just announced for free to play for PlayStation VR and such. So I might be missing a couple, but bear with me. You know, we'll go through the main 35 that have been announced for a while now, and we'll rank them. And let me know in the comments below which ones that you'll be picking up. So let's go through them all, because this might be a bit long of a video if I keep rambling on and such. So let's start with the obvious. And that is Horizon Call of the Mountain. I was about to say Horizon Zero Dawn there. Horizon Call of the Mountain. Now, this is the flagship title for the PlayStation VR 2. A lot of people will be picking this up on launch no matter what. You know, it's got decent reviews. The reviews have come out from a lot of content creators who have managed to get the PlayStation VR 2 early, and from various media outlets. And the general consensus has been it's a solid game. It's not going to blow you away, but it's a good showcase. Like a 7.5 out of 10 is what I'm gathering from all the reviews that I've kind of watched. So Horizon Zero Dawn, you know, it's going to be an easy one. It's going to be a must buy. It doesn't matter if you've not played Horizon or, you know, you're not interested in Horizon. This is the flagship title. This is the Breath of the Wild of the Nintendo Switch. You know, this is the flagship launch title. You got to get this no matter what. And most of you will get it through the bundle. So let's move on to the next title. Star Wars Tales from the Galaxy's Edge Enhanced Edition. Now, this game's an interesting one. If you've played this on other VR consoles like the Quest or just on PC VR, then I would say this is probably a pass for you, okay? Or maybe a wait for sale if you want to see what the haptic triggers are as such. But I'm going to come across to this as maybe someone who's not really played VR, who has not really played this game. I own this title on Quest 2. I've just never played it. You know, I've owned it. I've never played it. I'm going to put this one as a curious title. Okay, I think fans of Star Wars are definitely going to be curious about it. Probably will pick it up day one because, you know, fans of Star Wars. But I think if you're not really a mega fan or anything like that, I think this should be on your radar. It's what I've heard is a solid title, but it's not going to blow your socks off. It'll be a good showcase of the adaptive triggers for sure, with all the shooting and such. But I will put this in the curious column for now. And the next title is going to be Resident Evil Village. Now, Resident Evil Village is a very important title for the PlayStation VR 2. The reason why is that Resident Evil 7 Biohazard was out on the PlayStation VR, the first one, pretty much day and day launch, I believe, or within the launch window at least. And it was the first proper VR game that I had played, and it blew me away, blew my socks off is what I was going to say. The difference between Resident Evil 7 to Resident Evil 8 is that 7 had you still using the controller, where at least this VR mode you'll be able to use the DualSense controllers, the actual proper VR controllers. So I'm definitely excited about that. Obviously, it's a horror title. It's not going to be for everybody, but I've played a little bit of Village already. And when I say a little bit, probably about 5 hours. Like, I got close towards the end, but I got a bit bored of it. And the only reason why is because it didn't scare me. Like, it didn't scare me at all. Where Resident Evil 7, I played through in VR and completed it in VR, and it did scare the hell out of me. And that's what I want from a horror game. But I'm very excited about this because VR adds a whole new level of horror, right, to it. And for me, I will put this in a tier 1 category. I think if you really don't like horror, obviously this is not going to be on your list, and that's why it's hard for me to put on that as a must-buy. I think if it was solely just for me, I would put this as a must-buy, but I'm thinking in a more broad sense. I think this is a tier 1 title. Also, you can pick this game up for cheap at your local GameStop or Game or wherever you buy your physical discs. You can pick this up for cheap. Plus, it's been on the PlayStation Store on sale quite a lot of times. So I would say it's a tier 1. Even if you don't like horror that much, maybe get it on sale. It's probably worth it. Another one which is in the similar vein is Gran Turismo 7. I've said this, I do a podcast every week called Let's Talk Oculus, more on the MetaQuest system. But I mentioned this the other day where I've never liked Gran Turismo. Never been a fan, okay? I do like racing games, and I love the Forza series on Xbox. But every time I played Gran Turismo from the PS1 all the way, I think number 5 really stained me because I've been waiting for it for so long for the PS3. And I remember buying it and just absolutely hating it. I did not like it at all. And I ended up selling my whole PS3 with all my games and getting an Xbox Slim at the time with Forza Motorsport 3, I think it was, and had a blast with it, I've never been a fan of Gran Turismo, and this would normally, for me personally, be a pass, but the VR mode of it looks so good. You can play the whole game in VR apart from split screen racing, which is kind of a shame. Maybe they could have tried to make that work. I think they would have tried at least. But I'm picking this up. I haven't bought it yet. It's been on sale a few times, but I wanted to pick it up on disc. And once again, just like Resident Evil Village, it will be probably dead cheap on pre-owned. You'll probably save yourself $20 to $25. Not as cheap as Village, but I would definitely put this in tier 1. And that's coming from someone who doesn't like Gran Turismo at all. Never been a fan. I don't get why people love it, but people do love it, and that's more power to them. Definitely more of the simulation heads, I think. Maybe I like the more Arcadia version. But this will be tier 1 for sure. If you can find it for cheap, don't buy it at full price if you're not really into racing. But, if you have a PSVR, I think this can be another one that you should definitely pick up. Let's go to the next one, and that is Demeo. So Demeo, for people who don't know what that is, it is an RPG tabletop adventure, just like Dungeons and Dragons kind of feeling, right? Like a dungeon crawler. And you can play solo with AI, or you can play with 2 people, or you can play with 4 people, going around the board. And I think there's about 3, maybe 4 maps now, as far as I remember. I haven't been in Demeo for a while, to be honest. And there's extra modes where you can play with people who play on flat screen. So Demeo is available to play on flat screen if you want to. In fact, I have this preloaded on my PlayStation 5 as well, and you can play it on the TV with the PS5 if you wanted to. Okay, so every time I played Demeo, I haven't played much, but every time I played Demeo, I had a great time with it, and I'm going to put it in the curious column. I think if you're into that kind of tabletop adventure, then you're going to freaking love Demeo. Okay, you're going to absolutely love it. I know a lot of people, a lot of friends, PJ, for example, from VR Verdict Podcast, who freaking loves Demeo, and more power to him. I do love Demeo every time I play it. I just don't play it enough, So I'll put it in the curious column. This is definitely, if you like that kind of adventure, then definitely go for it. The next one will be Cities VR, which I cannot... Oh, there it is. Cities VR. So Cities VR, a lot of people know what this is. Cities is a very long-standing franchise. Okay, essentially it's a city builder. Okay, I've never been into the City franchise. I used to really like Roller Coaster Tycoon, which is kind of a similar thing in a way, where you would manage the roller coaster park, or the theme park rather. But this will be more for an actual city. And there's 2 different types of Cities VR. There's Cities VR, and then there's like Little Cities. Little Cities is more of a, not kid-friendly, but more of a lighthearted, not much of a simulation kind of thing. But Cities VR is more of a simulation into that. Some people are into it. If you're into it, go for it. For me, I'm going to probably put this in the pass column. I think there's a niche who loves this type of game. But out of all these 35 games, sure, maybe buy it one day, but this will be a pass for me. This will just be a pass, and I think a pass for a lot of people. So I want to put this as a pass column. Obviously, comment below if you disagree and you think I'm just making a bad decision and I should definitely go into it. Cosmonious High is a similar game to something like Job and Vacation Simulator, but this time you'll be more at a high school. You'll be competing in missions, side objectives. It has eye tracking support with the PSVR one, which is really cool. This has been on Quest and Steam VR for a little bit while now, and it's got some good reviews. A lot of people say that this is meant to be like a packing game. It's a good lighthearted game for a lot of people who want to just try VR for the first time and jump into it. For me, it's probably a game that Quest 2 owners might be interested in, and I think people who have spent the money or investment for the PlayStation VR probably not going to look at this game, to be honest. I'm going to put this in the pass column. I think if you want something similar as the experience, Job Simulator and Vacation Simulator are probably going to be the two that you'll look at, unless you've played them before from the previous PlayStation VR. In fact, let's just go straight to those. Job Simulator and Vacation Simulator. I'm going to put both of them in the wait for sale column. These games have been around for a long time, and it's quite, self-explanatory. The Job Simulator, you sat at your desk, you'd have all these tasks and objectives to do, and it's silly fun. And I would definitely say wait for a sale, just because they've been out for a while. I feel like they would drop in price very quickly compared to most of these games on these lists. And if you've already played these before, it might be a good one for friends and family when they come round, and you can put them in Job Simulator or Vacation Simulator or such. But I would say wait for a sale. More of a lighthearted, just to continue on that theme, is What the Bat. What the Bat, I'm going to put as curious. It's not a tier 1 game for me. I would say it's definitely a curiosity if you're looking at it. It's probably the better lighthearted games out of the 4 that I've just put down. Reason why it's very, very new. It's one of the newest titles out there. I have completed it start to finish from the Quest 2. And it is really fun. As essentially your hands turn into baseball bats, and then you have to complete, I believe there's over 100 missions in there using your baseball bat. And the missions kind of vary in length. Some of them are really short, like there's a baseball and you got to hit it against a trophy to continue. But then some are a little bit longer. Say that there's one mission in particular which I really like, where it's quite early on, but you wake up and you wake up with baseball hands, and you got to get dressed and brush your teeth and such like that, which is really fun. And I had a blast with it. I would say once it has more and more levels, I know 100 seems a lot, but I did blast through this game quite quickly. It might be more of a tier 1. I don't know if I'll ever get there, to be honest. I don't know if I'll ever get there. But if you want more of a lighthearted game, a lighthearted title, What the Bat is probably one of the best lighthearted title ones out there. So let's go into the next one, and we're going to go into Pistol Whip. If you've never played it, and you're looking for a rhythm game, I would say this is probably going to be number 1 on your list. So I'm going to put it straight to must buy. And I love Pistol Whip. Pistol Whip's been around for a long time. Probably the same amount of time as Job Simulator, or maybe not that long. And they've just expanded. There's 2 or 3 campaigns in there now. It's on rails. You're just standing in one spot. But you're moving a lot, and you're shooting all these people who are trying to shoot you. And the music's pretty good. Electronic dance music is kind of the focus of it, but there are a few variations in that. EDM's quite a big genre. And it's going to be hard with the PSVR though. The cable's not going to be an issue, because you're just standing straight pretty much, and maybe pivoting left or right, but you're never turning around. You never do a 360 or such. But every time I've played it with my Quest 2, I've always had my bed in front of me, because there are some missions where, say, you don't have the gun and you're just punching and such, and sometimes I just fall. I just fall forward into my bed. So keep that in mind. But I'm not planning to pick this up myself, just because I've played this to death and I've done everything on Quest 2. But I'm curious to see the reviews on this one and see if the visuals are worth it and the feeling of the adaptive triggers. There are loads of guns in Pistol Whip. They're like water guns, they're standard pistols, there's like movie kind of alien shooting guns, and I'm wondering what they can do with the trigger, adaptive triggers, because if they can adjust almost every single gun to feel a tiny bit different or have its own kind of feeling, then it might be worth the pickup for me, as someone who's played Pistol Whip to death. But I would put this on a must-buy for most people who have maybe just jumped into Pistol Whip a little bit, or just never played it before. I think this is probably the best rhythm game in the launch library to start off with. Beat Saber, I think, Beat Saber's coming at some point, but yeah, Pistol Whip with the adaptive triggers, must buy for me, for sure. The next game we're going to talk about is Zenith: The Last City. Now, Zenith is a MMO, a massive multiplayer online game. Pretty much like MMOs do have like RPG elements in it. It's not for me, it's not a game for me. I'm not an MMO person. However, they have launched on Quest. They have put in so much new content, so much new updates to it since it launched. And the community absolutely loves this game. A lot of people love Zenith. And if you're into MMOs at all, I think this is going to be perfect for you. And that's why I'm going to put this as tier 1. I would say this is a tier 1 game for sure. If you're into MMOs, you will absolutely love this game. Obviously, if you don't like MMOs like me, this is in the pass column, and that's what happens. And when it comes to games, it really is just your taste, right, of what you want and such. So yeah, I'm definitely going to put this in tier 1 though. This is definitely a tier 1 title. And something similar to that is After the Fall. After the Fall, if you've never heard of After the Fall, think of Left 4 Dead. And if you've never heard of Left 4 Dead for the Xbox, think of a 4-person, I guess is that co-op? Yeah, co-op is, multi-people. I always think co-op's 2 people. But a 4-person co-op adventure where you're going through hordes and hordes of zombies, okay, and there's different types of missions. It's not really a story game, but it's that hordes of zombie kind of, a repetitive kind of moment. Now, it doesn't feel repetitive when you're playing it because there's all sorts of guns to unlock. There are various amount of maps, and every time you're in a co-op game with different 4 people or just with 4 people in general, you're gonna have a different experience every single time. Just the co-op nature of it. For me, I have this game on the Quest. I had a great time in Quest. I remember playing it with a few friends, and some of them were playing it on PC VR, and it looked way better. For example, going through like a dark room, with zombies and such, in the PC version, it's dark, and you have your light on your gun for you to be able to see, okay? But in the Quest version, for some reason, I don't know why they've done this, because Medal of Honor can do this on the Quest, but there's no torch. They've just lit up most of the environment so you can see, and it ruins the kind of horror aspect of this title on the Quest 2. But obviously, you don't have to worry about this on the PlayStation VR 2. It's going to run exactly how the PCR version is, if not better. If you own this for the PlayStation VR 1, when it came out a couple years ago or a year ago now, it is a free upgrade. So if you already own this title, this is in there. I'm going to put this as a tier 1 title. I think the production quality and such of this game is definitely tier 1. Especially with the haptics and the adaptive triggers and such. For me, once again, I'm not going to pick this up because I didn't play it much, simply because I don't play online multiplayers that much, but I would definitely put this as a tier 1 title for sure. In fact, now I'm thinking of my list. We've got must buy, tier 1. Tier 1's like, these are top games, and then curious, as if you're curious and such. I'm actually going to move Demeo into tier 1. Because I think Demeo is so polished and so well done that it is a tier 1 title. I think that's doing it a disservice for being curious. So yeah, I'm going to move that into tier 1. Let's move on to the next one, and that's Tentacular. Tentacular is just, you become a octopus. And you have all these tentacles, i.e. 2 tentacles, because you only have 2 arms. But you're just causing mayhem in the city. And there's also various missions and such. It's a very light-hearted game. I remember Gamertag not really liking this. It wasn't his jam, but it got decent reviews across the board. With Tentacular, for me, I would probably put this in a pass column. You know, it's not really for me. It's a fun, just like all over the place. It's a Quest 2 title. It's a Quest 2 title. And when I say that, a Quest 2 title, it's for the more casual audience. You know, not everyone who has Quest 2 are casual, okay? Because not everyone can afford to get a PC or to afford to get a PlayStation VR. But there are going to be more casual people on Quest 2 than it would be on PlayStation VR 2. So I would say if you have a Quest as well, maybe pick this up, and we'll maybe do another tier maker for Quest games. That'll be a lot of games, but that'll be on the path. You know, I don't think you want to buy this for the PlayStation VR 2, even if that's your only VR headset. You know, what the bat, that's your lighthearted one that I think you still think you should get. All right, so let's move on to Moss. I mean, we can do both Moss Book 1 and Moss Book 2. So Moss is one of the best platformers in there, and you know, for people who have never played a platformer in VR, they might not think it will work. Like, I never thought it will work until I played Astrobot's Playroom for the PlayStation VR 2. But it does really work. You're a third person. You have a third person view of your character, kind of like a normal platformer. But you would be able to interact with Quill, which is the mouse in Moss. And you'll also be able to move all the environments around to kind of solve puzzles and trying to get through the level. And there's fighting elements in there as well. Quill has a sword, so you know there's fighting elements as well in there. I think now Moss has been out for a long time. The first one, the second one came out last year. Moss has been out for ages. Now, if Astrobot's Playroom that came out on the PlayStation VR. No, it's not Playroom. It's the Rescue Mission, rather. Playroom's something else. If that came out on the PlayStation VR 2, or at least they backwards compatible it, I would probably put Moss slightly below that. You know, it's a fantastic game, but it's not a must-buy compared to Astrobot. But on PlayStation VR 2, there is no Astrobot. At least not yet. I'm sure they're going to make Astrobot again for the PlayStation VR 2. They have to, because that's probably the best platformer that's ever been on VR. And definitely a selling point for the PSVR 1. But for Moss Book 1 and Moss Book 2, I have to group them. And I would probably put them both in Tier 1. They're both Tier 1 games. The Moss is fantastic. I actually haven't played 2 because I never finished 1. But Moss is fantastic. You know, there's nothing but raving reviews for both of them. It's a Tier 1 title. Very well polished, for sure. Let's move on to the next one, and that's Pavlov VR. It's an interesting one because Pavlov is a PC title. There is a Quest version of Pavlov, but the main community, I believe, is on PC VR. Pavlov VR is one of the best multiplayer shooters on PC VR. Something I haven't personally played, but just what I know from other people in the industry, in the VR industry, the guns, how they feel, the guns and such. It also, there's not sure yet, but there might be crossplay support with, there is crossplay with the PC version, but there might be crossplay with the Quest, but they're unsure at the moment, well, according to the article that I'm reading from Upload VR. But if you're into multiplayer shooters, Pavlov's going to be up there, but I can't put it in Tier 1 because I don't think it's that much of a polished game. It is much more polished than it used to be, without a doubt. They've got a completely redesign, and it does look great, but I don't want to put it in Tier 1. You know, to me, Pavlov VR doesn't feel like a Tier 1 game. It feels like if you're into multiplayer shooters, you'll be curious about that. Firewall Ultra, which is the PlayStation VR game that comes out, I believe, in March, or they haven't released a date yet. It's launch window game. That would be more of a Tier 1 title, and if you're into multiplayer shooters, I would say would be the must buy. But as good as Pavlov is, I think for most people this will just be sat at the curious spot, you know. But that's just my opinion. You know, you could in the comments tell me that I'm stupid. It was a terrible idea. All right, let's get into another one. A lighthearted game called Fantavision 202X or 202X. This game actually was a PS2 game, a puzzle game. But then it's been developed and put out for VR. I think if anyone is into Fantavision back in the PS2 days, then you'd obviously want to pick this up for sure. I've never played this game. You know, I hate to admit. I just know it's a puzzle game with lots of colors. I'm sure it's going to be beautiful. It'd be hard to. If you're looking at puzzle games with Fantavision's kind of vibe, then Tetris Effect, when that comes out, which is a launch game, which we'll talk about in a second, is probably going to be more for you. I'm going to pass on Fantavision, but I understand if you played this in PS2 days and you loved it, then you're going to probably want to pick it up, or definitely be in the curious column up here. Let's go into another heavy hitter. This is Kayak VR Mirage. Now, Kayak VR has been touted as one of the most beautiful games in PlayStation, in PC VR. One of the most beautiful games. Essentially, you're sat in a kayak and you've got all these beautiful environments. There's also races as well. I'm going to put this as a must-buy. Reason being is that it's not going to be that expensive. I believe it's about $20 US, around that. My PlayStation counts in pounds, so that might be slightly different. It's on sale if you have PS Plus, which probably most of you have. And I think this is going to be the game that you put people who have never tried VR into VR. Reason being, controls are relatively simple. It's a seated experience as well. And it's going to be beautiful. It's going to be breathtakingly beautiful. And there's very rare you'll get motion sickness in this. So I've already bought this. This is preloaded on my PS5, ready to go. This is a must-buy for me, Kayak VR for sure. I don't even care for kayaking. I've never kayaked. I actually want to kayak, but I just know this is going to be the game that I'm going to boot up every time someone comes over and it's like, oh, let me try your $800 PlayStation VR 2 system or such. Let me see what this is all about, okay? And then you put them in Kayak and you're like, whoa, okay. And then you probably put them in Horizon 2, because, by the way, just to come off the list for a second, Horizon has this, I saw from the reviews, has this mode where I can't remember what it's called, like a spectator mode or something, but it's like a Disneyland kind of adventure where you're sat in the boat and all these things happen around you, which is also going to be fantastic for newcomers for sure. But yeah, Kayak VR, must buy. Okay, let's talk about one of the newest titles, Altair Breaker. It's a multiplayer sword fighting game. And that's pretty much all I know about it, to be honest. The trailer kind of doesn't give you too much. It just seems like a kind of a room scale adventure, a room scale kind of fighting game in a way. That's all I can say about it. And I think, after what I've said, is I would put this as pass, unless the reviews are really good. It might be one of those things where I have to play all 35 of these games and then I have to redo this list and go, oh, I was completely wrong about Altair Breaker. This is a must buy. It's that good. It's hard for me to say, but from just initial looks, I will put this as a pass column. It doesn't really tell you much. It doesn't really tell you much in the actual trailer or anything like that. Just know it's a sword fighting game. So let's go to Dyschronia Chronos Alternate. This is a graphic novel, essentially, turned into a VR game. They say there's 3 episodes. Episode 1 and episode 2 is available for launch. I believe my podcast co-host Samson, he is into that. He really likes it. I think this is the game that he's talking about. I've played the other ones in the series. There's Tokyo Chronos and Aldeus Beyond Chronos. I think I played the Aldeus one, and I did not like it at all. It's not for me. It's a graphic novel, right? You're sat there, you're listening to them, or you're reading the text and such. in VR. It's just not a game that I like in VR. So for me, it's pass. But it's one of those games, once again, if you're into that, if you're in that niche who likes it, this will probably be more of a curious game, if anything. Wait for sale at the most, at the least, I would say. But for me, pass. Not for me. The next game I can comfortably say pass, and that is Kizuna AI Touch the Beat. I played this on Quest 2, and it's one of the worst rhythm games I've ever played. I might be, people in the comments or watching this, might be saying otherwise. Maybe I didn't play enough of it, but it's just bad. There's so many better rhythm games. You've got Pistol Whip. We'll talk about Synth Riders in a second. You'll have Beat Saber coming out soon. Don't waste your time. Put this on the pass list. There's so many better games. Okay, let's go to the next one. And this is Song of Smoke Rekindled. Now, Song in the Smoke Rekindled. Rekindled part is because this game came out on the PlayStation VR 1. A lot of people liked it, as far as I'm aware. It's a survival kind of game, think of something on the PlayStation like Don't Starve, for example. Did love Don't Starve, I'm not gonna lie. If you're into these survival kind of games, the hunting kind of games, I think you're gonna be into this. Some people liked it during launch. It wasn't like you've got to go get out the PlayStation VR for this game, but I would definitely put this in the more wait for sale kind of game. It's been out for ages. It's only if you're into that type of titles. I think there's so many more above this wait for sale. The stuff in the curious tier 1 and must buy are all games you should put ahead of Song in the Smoke. But I don't know, if you loved it so much on PC, PlayStation VR 1, then go for it. But me, wait for sale for sure. The next one is Puzzling Places, and this is probably the first real puzzler on the list. I'm trying to look through our list that we have here, and no, this is a proper, this is just purely puzzles. And Puzzling Places is a jigsaw title. It's a jigsaw title where you're creating these 3D puzzles, and it's very calming, it's very relaxing. I have this on Quest 2. I've done it through pass-through mode as well, which has been fun. I'm not sure if this has pass-through mode available. This does have eye tracking support, so I'm wondering what that's going to entail. But it's a lovely game. It has hand tracking on the Quest 2, but obviously that's not something on the PlayStation VR. It's going to look beautiful. It's going to look very calming. Puzzling Places, I would probably put, for me, I would say this is probably a curious game. It's a really good game. It's not tier 1, but it's a really, really good game if you're into that. Yeah, I would say that's in the curious. And in fact, let's move on to the next one, which would be Tetris Effect. Tetris Effect, I will put into curious as well. It's Tetris. You know Tetris. I know Tetris. Everyone probably who has ever played a game knows Tetris, And it's fantastic in VR because the visuals of Tetris Effect is beautiful. You've got music which goes along the beat of the Tetris pieces. You can kind of play it continuously. I don't know if that makes any sense if you've never played it, but you can, as soon as you finish a level, it move on to the next level, seamlessly. You don't have to kind of in and out and take you out the experience. It's a beautiful game when you play it. I have this on Quest 2, and the only reason why I put this on Curious is that, I don't know, it might be my level, but it's really damn hard. It's really damn hard, especially the easy mode. It's still really hard to play, and I don't know if it might be frustrating, and I don't know if it's for everybody. Tetris Effect, yeah. So I think I'll put this in the curious column for me. I think if you're curious, if you want to see Tetris in beautiful visuals, then definitely go for it. But I would not put this as tier 1 title for sure. So the next game is Synth Riders, and Synth Riders I am going to smash on tier 1, without even explaining. Synth Riders is a fantastic rhythm game, and I think it's going to work best in PlayStation VR because, you have essentially these round balls on each of your hands. You have a blue one or a pink one, and then obviously I think you can change the colors as well. But it kind of fits the PlayStation VR controllers quite well. But reason why I put this in, they have tons of great songs, and actually on launch they're going to release a Gorillaz pack, which I'm very, very excited for. And the amazing thing about it is that it's not just like a Beat Saber, oh, they're going to add a new wave of songs, and probably the environments look a little bit different to match the songs and such, all great. No, Synth Riders takes a step further, and they choose one feature song, which I'm assuming would probably be Feel Good in this one. But anyway, this one feature song, they put you into a kind of a synth music video. If you think about back in the day, I'm sure most of you, when you're on Windows PC and you're playing a song, you're playing a music, you have that visualizer that comes up with all the different cool, colors and all that stuff. It's kind of like that on next level. You're in that mode. You've got all these beautiful visual elements around you, and a lot of them obviously match to the theme of the band. I remember playing the one for The Offspring, which was amazing. The Lindsey Sterling music pack, which is she's a violinist, I believe, and her music pack was fantastic. There's a lot of their music packs. In fact, I think all of their music packs, apart from the Muse one, for me, has been top tier. The Muse one is top tier. I'm just not a Muse fan at all. I just don't really like Muse. Most of their music packs have been top tier, and I highly recommend Synth Riders. And I think, as far as I'm aware, if you buy the remastered version, you also get access to the Lindsey Sterling music pack for free. And that's available up until March the 22nd. So I would definitely say this is tier 1. If you're in dire need of a rhythm game as a must-buy, I would still keep that as Pistol Whip. But the songs in Synth Riders are better. Okay, so this is where the list gets a little bit tricky. We're going to talk about the Last Clockwinder. The Last Clockwinder got voted the best puzzle game in 2022 of the VR Game Awards. And I think the VR Game Awards or the MetaQuest Awards. I can't remember which awards, but it was voted as the best one. And it is a puzzle game, and is a very clever puzzle game. What you do is you do an action, and then I don't know how to explain this game. I feel like the trailer is the easiest way to explain, but you would do an action, and then a shadow of you, or i.e. a robot of you, will do the action that you've created. And you have to do all these series of actions to complete these puzzles. Is that the way to explain it? It's hard. It's a hard game to explain, but it is a fantastic puzzler. I've only played a little bit of it in Quest 2. I own it, so for me it would be a pass, just because... In fact, no. For me it would be probably wait for a sale, just because this will be a fun game to be on the screen with the PSVR and have somebody like watching you and kind of trying to help you, give hints and such. This could be probably a wait for sale for me personally, but if you don't own it in any other capacity, The Last Clockwinder for me as a puzzle game will probably be in the must-buy column. As a puzzle game, if you want a puzzle game, you go for it. I'm looking at this must-buy column here, and you got Horizon, the flagship game. You have to buy it. Pistol Whip, the best rhythm game on this list, which will utilize the adaptive triggers and such, maybe to the best of its ability. A strong case could be for Synth Riders, though. You could probably replace these two. If you're sick of shooting, for whatever reason, you can probably replace the two. I think either one would be fine. Kayak VR Mirage, the quintessential game to put someone in VR to experience for the first time. And Last Clockwinder, the best puzzle game on this list, without a shadow of a doubt. So that's what I'm kind of gathering from the must-buy section. So yeah, Last Clockwinder must-buy for sure. The next game will be an older title, and that's called Thumper. Thumper, every time I see... Thumper's a rhythm game, but every time I see it, it's like a Wipeout kind of feeling game is what I'm seeing. This came out in 2016 for the PlayStation VR 1. And it was beloved by a lot of people, and this is going to have better visuals and such. And it comes for the PlayStation VR 2. I don't believe this is getting like a free upgrade from PSVR 1. Thumper for me, I would probably put for wait for sale. I don't think it's going to be necessarily a pass, but a wait for sale. I think a lot of people do like it, so more power to them. But for me, I'd probably pass it. But, probably all these wait for sale games I'd probably put in the pass for me personally, but no, I would say wait for sale if you're maybe into that. And we're getting closer to the end here. The next one is Cave Digger 2. Cave Digger 2 is a solo or a 4-player co-op game. This is a mining simulator, in a way. I think it's going to be a fun game as a co-op pairing. For me, I think Cave Digger 2 will probably be in a wait for sale. It looks to me like a solid game. I personally won't pick it up, but I think if you want more co-op games, this might be your jam. But I'm going to put this as wait for sale. I think there are other co-op games like After the Fall or Demeo or Zenith in a way. There's more multiplayer games that I would say is probably worth your time than going for Cave Digger, but hey, I might be wrong. I haven't played 1 or 2, and it might be great. Another one is Townsman. Townsman VR is a city builder, kind of like Cities, but more of an older age of building. I don't know what else. I don't know what to say about this one because I'm not really into the city builder, so I'm just gonna put it as pass. Not for me. Not for me. But apparently, according to Upload VR, you can feel the effects of earthquakes alongside the Synth controllers, and the adaptive triggers are in it too. So that's probably going to be fun. But yeah, not for me. Next one will be Zombieland Headshot Fever. I actually have a review of Zombieland Headshot Fever for the Quest 2 on my YouTube channel. So just dig through, you'll probably see it. I really enjoyed it. The only problem with me for this game is that it might just get, once you've done it, once you've completed all the levels, you have done it. You know, there's not much replayability, even though it is kind of in a chasing leaderboards kind of replayability. For me, that loop gets a little bit, that gameplay loop gets a little bit boring after a while. So I wouldn't put this on tier 1. This one's a hard one for me. It would be either wait for sale or curious, because it is a really fun game. But is it better than buying something like Star Wars, Tetris? But is it in the wait for sale with all these? This one's a hard one for me. I'm not sure where to put it. You know, the way the shooter is, if I can explain the game a little bit more, it's more of a, think of like a House of the Dead, or Time Crisis, or like an arcade kind of shooting game like that. You know, you go to the arcades and you're like shooting all these like zombies, and then you go into the next stage, shooting, dodging, shooting, next stage, and you try and do it as fast as you can. They have they don't have the proper voice actors, but they do sound pretty similar. There's a lot of guns in there. There's an extra map, I think, that was added since the time I played or made that review. You know what? I'm going to put this on curious because it is a very polished, very well-rounded game. It's just that it's hard. I don't know how much it is. If it's like $20, then fine. If it's 30 or more, that's way too much. And that would be a wait for sale. But I'm not knowing what the price is, assuming it's going to be $20. This is a curious column, for sure. All right, now we go on to I think the last game that I reviewed on my YouTube channel is NFL Pro Era. And NFL Pro Era goes straight into the curious column for me. Reason being, I really like this game. I really like it. I had so much fun in it. The graphics look really good on Quest 2, and I'm sure they're going to be fantastic on PlayStation VR 2. The reason why I put this on curious, I think if you're a football fan, this comes into tier 1. You know, if you're a football fan, Even if you're a little football, like I'm not massive into football. I do like watching it. I do watch most of the season up until this, and obviously the Super Bowl. So I do know the players, and I've only been watching it for like 3 years since I moved to North America. But for people who buy it, the one disappointment of this, it doesn't have multiplayer. And I think it would be so much better if it had multiplayer. I mean, the thing is, it has multiplayer in terms of arcade kind of games, but they're a bit pants. In fact, they are pants. It just needs proper multiplayer, or a little bit more in depth in the season. Like, it has a season mode, which is great, which is game to game, but maybe add a few more elements to like how career mode is on Madden or such like that, right? There just needs to be a little bit more for me to say it will be tier 1. So I'm going to put this on the curious column. If you're like me and you're kind of into football a little bit and you're just, curious about how this is going to be, then definitely go get it. Definitely get it. It's a great game. It's a fun game. I have a great time in it. Is it tier 1 though? Not yet. It doesn't rank. All of these games at the top here, but in tier 1, they are better than Pro Era because of the amount of features that they have, how complete the game is and such, right? So yeah, I want to say Pro Era is curious. Now this one's an interesting one. Light Brigade I didn't really care for. It's a shooter which has it's a roguelike shooter which has like magic involved in as well, and you can choose different types of classes as well. You don't have to just go like a standard, I don't know, a warrior class or something. There's different classes. I'm sure there's like magician or such in there as well. I'm going to put this as, this could be a tier 1 game. I'm not going to lie. The reason why I put this as tier 1 is just because of the reviews. The reviews that came out with it. I looked at 6 Degrees of Freedom, and let me just read their quick blurb that they say. The Light Brigade has balls. It has great big balls. Its balls are so big that the developers Funktronic have set a review embargo to 1 week before its launch. It's a gutsy move for sure, and definitely shows their confidence in the game. Well, they're right to feel confident because Light Brigade is fantastic. I gave it a 9 out of 10. The reviewer, I'm trying to find his name on this, Omar Camel did the review for this. And it looks like it has World War II guns involved as well, which I'm all for as well. So I have to, do I put this on tier 1? It has great reviews. This might be more of a Quest tier 1. In fact, I'm going to change it. I'm going to put it as curious because I'm very curious about it. Is it tier 1? Time will tell. This might change. This list might change a little bit after I do play it. I might go, you know what, this is a tier 1 game. But I'm going to keep this as curious because I'm very curious about it. It's got very good reviews. Is it a game that's tier 1 on Quest, but actually just curious on PlayStation VR 2 because of the big heavy hitting titles that's above it? Time will tell. But yeah, I'm going to put Light Brigade as curious. And then we come to last 2. Now, Gardens of Sea got announced very recently. In fact, I think just a week before the launch. It looks like a petting kind of simulator. You can breed cute baby animals, finish different quests, get rewards. Is it like a Animal Crossing kind of game? Yeah, this will be just a pass for me. Maybe people love it, but this will be a pass for me. Moving swiftly on, we got Drums Rock. Drums Rock came out on Quest, I think, last year. I've never played Drums Rock. I've played the other drumming games, Smash Drums. Love Smash Drums, for example. Drums Rock looks like it's the same Guitar Hero kind of thing where you have targets coming at you, i.e., where you're going to hit the drum coming at you, and then you're essentially drumming. So I couldn't tell you if this game is good. It doesn't look that fun to me. I definitely wish something like Smash Drums was coming. But hey, people love Drums Rock. They might be big fans of it, and if they like Drums Rock, then fair play to them. But for me, Drums Rock is gonna be a would it be a pass? Yeah. Yeah, Drums Rock's gonna be a pass for me. It's not, yeah, It's not Smash Drum. Oh, is it Smash Drums? I don't know. I've not heard the best things. Like, maybe I'm getting conflicted. Maybe I'm doing this review. People probably zoned out by now. But yeah, Drums Rock will definitely be passed. So that's what we have as our list. I'm very happy with this list, actually, looking at it, because I think everything in Pass, Wait for Sale, Curious, every time when I do like a snapshot of this, they all look like they deserve to be there. You know, tier 1, you got heavy hitting titles here. Resident Evil Village that I'm going to be getting on launch. Gran Turismo I'll be getting on launch. Zenith, not for me, but for a lot of people, launch. After the Fall, once again, multiplayer, not for me, launch. Demeo, I've already got on launch. Moss Book 1, Moss Book 2, I have Moss on Quest, so I'm not going to get it myself, but Moss Book 1 and 2, top tier platformer, the best platformer available on the PlayStation VR, because I feel like it's the only one, for sure. And then Synth Riders, a top tier. This could easily be must buy, like I've said. You could switch this out with Pistol Whip, depending on where you want to go. Do you want a more shooting rhythm game, or do you want better songs? You know, like Synth Riders just has a more range of and better song packs and such. You know, so you can switch these two out accordingly. And then the must buy, you've got Horizon, Pistol Whip, Kayak VR Mirage. You know, you've got your flagship game, your excellent rhythm game. You've got your game to show off the visuals, and which is also still a good game. And you've got one of the best puzzlers made for VR, especially last year. So I'm very happy with this list. This is day 1. Let me know let me know what you think of the list. You know, are you a big Tentacular fan and I just did you disservice and you clicked off immediately? Who knows? Just let me know in the comments. But keep it locked for more PlayStation VR content. I will be picking one up at launch. I'm getting some weird vibes from my pre-order. So will I get it on the day of launch? Will I not? Will it come in time? Who's to say? Either way, keep it locked for more PlayStation VR content. I'm absolutely buzzing for the system. It feels like Christmas has come incredibly early. And happy PlayStation VR 2 launch week to everyone. See you later.